Good morning, everybody. It's really nice to see all of you here. My name is Claire. That's me on the Catelli box at the age of 6. And people have often asked me, well, how did you get on that box? And my answer is always the same, because at the time that they were rebranding the box, there was no one in Barbados that could eat more macaroni and cheese than me. And I find it funny now that when I ask people, do you think you eat healthy? A lot of the times they say, well, I still eat meat, or I don't really eat so much meat. And I find myself thinking, but do you still eat a lot of macaroni and cheese? So I didn't really give much thought to the food I ate up until like about my late teens, early 20s, where two experiences changed my life. The first one was my gran. She was the rock of my family. The person who fed me my first chocolate and gave me lots of macaroni pie. She was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes at the age of 67, followed after that with advanced heart disease. Then she also had triple bypass surgery, and then a couple months after she had advanced pancreatic cancer. And I remember looking at her in the ICU at the QH hospital and looking at tubes going into every part of her body and looking at that bandage where they had to cover her, the scar from where they cracked her chest to get to her heart. I'm thinking to myself, this is crazy. This is madness. How did we get to this? Shortly before she passed, I landed a job managing a complementary healthcare clinic in Barbados. And a few weeks into the job, I explained to the consultant that I myself had some health concerns that kept getting worse despite being on medication for over a year. Here the man's solution. No bread, no pasta, no sugar, no salt, no soft drinks for 3 months. I was like, pardon me, you just told the Catelli girl no pasta, but what do you want me to eat? So this really was where I started my journey into nutritional therapy. So naturally, the next question I had to ask myself was, well, what's in that box or bag or bottle that's so bad that I have to cut it out in order to get better? And the best way I can explain that to you is to show you how I used to see food versus what I see now. I used to see pasta, now I see refined white flour. I used to see biscuits, now I see refined white flour and refined white sugar. I used to see chocolate, now I see refined white sugar. I used to see soft drinks, now I see refined white sugar. I used to see potato chips, now I see refined salt and MSG. And one word comes to mind when I see this food: frustration. Because this food is in my face 24/7. It has zero goodness. And by them adding things like MSG, which by the way is in so many Bajan seasons, you know when that chicken tastes real good? That's MSG in your chicken. And you see when they add this, and you know what it does? It fools the brain into thinking that the food is nutritious, but it's not. So you keep eating more and more and more, and then an hour later you're never full, and then you don't know why. And let me tell you why. The manufacturers and distributors of this food, they spend over $634 billion in global advertising, targeting people like the youth. And let me tell you their secret why they do that. Because they assume that you're young, so you want to eat what's cool, right? But you're not going to ask a big question about your health. So that means that they get to hook you into buying their product for life. Then they get to make a profit of $1.86 trillion while you get sick and get to spend thousands of dollars on medical bills with money that you don't have. So, you still don't get your mask? Let me break it down a little further. The American Heart Association recommends that for a healthy diet, you're supposed to have you're supposed to have 5 or fewer servings of added sugar. 1 serving is 1 tablespoon of sugar, right? So that's 5 grams. So in a week, if we're talking Monday to Friday, you're supposed to have 25 grams of added sugar to your diet, no more. So if we look at the food that we would snack on, some sweet biscuits, a serving size is 4 and not a whole pack, has in 7 grams of sugar, which isn't so bad. The average chocolate has 26 grams of sugar. The average box juice has 34 grams of sugar. And that nice, tasty, red, fizzy pop drink that y'all be guzzling down after school has 70 grams of sugar. So that means that if you wanted then to start about combining snacks, If for 1 week you had 1 pack of biscuits and 1 box juice, that is 205 grams of added sugar. Better yet, if you wanted to have 1 chocolate and 1 fizzy drink for each day of the week, that is 480 grams of sugar. I nearly passed out when I weighed this out in the bowl myself. So, this is the result of eating this food out of balance, like what Dr. Shea over here was talking about. This is the result. And this is what the manufacturers say is nature's natural food. Well, I'm here to tell you today, there's nothing natural about refined white powder, whether you sniff it, snort it, or eat it. I've spent the last 7 years of my life trying to understand what the Rastafari talk about, a live it and not a diet. And I've been to Dominica, like some of the other speakers mentioned, where I've seen fruits and vegetables just growing in overwhelming abundance. I've been to St. Lucia, where I discovered a family of mine who are actually practicing organic farming in the hills of Anne-Surrey. I've also been to Scotland, where I met food activists that used to ban out buying food from the supermarket because they were just not happy about what they were providing. I lived and studied in London, where I used to go to farmers markets and I would taste the most delicious healthy cuisine. That picture is actually the first day working for a company called Rainforest Creations, and they taught me that healthy food does not have to be boring. Healthy food tastes fantastic. So they would make the most delicious salads, and they would make like spicy salsa sauces and creamy hummus made from chickpeas. They would make cake that had in almonds and bananas and mango and pumpkin. No refined sugar or any kind of refined flour. And guess what? After you have 1 slice, you are full. You're not going back for seconds because that's called whole food. You have pumpkin pasta. You have pumpkin pasta. You can have brownies. They make brownies with beetroots and coconuts and dates. Because guess what? There are approximately 50,000 edible plants to eat on this earth, and 90% of the human diet comes from just 15 foods. I am not saying that you have to eat like this 100% of the time. What I'm saying is it's about balance. It's about knowing what quantities of food allow you to live an energetic life where you're looking good and feeling good about yourself. I still have my moments of weakness. When that macaroni pie on the dinner table sizzling and I just be like, cheese on bread, that look real good. The difference is that I'm not going to eat that food every day, and I know when to stop and give my body a rest. The difference is that I know how to substitute certain things. So I'll buy dark chocolate instead of buying milk chocolate or white chocolate, which has no chocolate, by the way, right? And also I'll try to cook 6 out of 7 days of the week. So I'm not a gourmet chef by any means, but I'll make things like my own homemade salads. I'll make dressings using low-fat yogurt with lovely fresh herbs out of your kitchen garden. I'll make beans and peas sometimes instead of having to use meat constantly. I'll do things like couscous with vegetables. So next time you have your pasta or your potatoes and you're wondering, oh, what am I supposed to do with this? Jazz it up, add a lot of color, because more color means more nutrition. You could make banana bread and coconut bread with things like spelt flour and rye flour. You put your linseeds on the top, you put your baked nuts on the top. It is delicious. You could make your oat porridge. You could use almond milk and soy milk. You could put some fresh bananas in there. My son, he eats everything from my plate because I know what I put in it and it's good for him, so it's good for me. Invest in a juicer. I promise you, when you taste authentic, proper apple juice and orange juice, box juice will instantly taste inferior. But I understand that sometimes you have to buy the box juice. Walk with a flask that Fraser told you. Walk with that to school because you need to dilute the juice. It's 1/4 of the juice to 3/4 cups of water. You need to be the Caribbean version of the US Rethinkers. These were a visionary group of 5th to 8th graders who on their own transformed their cafeterias at school. They created healthy eating policies, and they made a contract for the food suppliers to sign and commit to it. And they have just blown away the States by what they have done. You are powerful beyond measure. I'm going to say that again. You are powerful beyond measure. You have a voice. Show the world that long gone are the young people who will be seen and not heard. Ask a question about your health. My grand taught me a bigger lesson in life. Never allow yourself to be defined by a box, because people who think outside of boxes are the ones that create change. Thank you.